फ्रेंड्स, कैसे हो आप लोग? वेलकम बैक once again. Myself Pushpender Singh, and we are going to start with our daily current affairs. So today you have 17th of June 2021, and we are going to start with our daily current affairs. These lectures are basically based on the current affairs, where we are referring the two national newspapers, the Hindu and the Indian Express. You can also read these two national newspapers. Apart from that, you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube for these lectures so that you could supplement your preparation with the help of these lectures. So let's begin with the today's lecture. Okay, so first news is all about the Damini. The Damini is basically a mobile app. Okay, so here the Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, have called for giving the various, using of the various apps which is related to the weather forecasting, right? So the Union Home Minister basically pressed for giving the maximum publicity for the uses of various weather forecasting apps for the purpose of the weather forecasting in our country. So such weather forecasting apps are basically there, right? For example, you have the Umang app, you have rain alarm app, and you have basically the Damini app. So these are the three apps, okay, which are currently in the Indian domain for the purpose of weather forecasting. Okay, now let us understand one by one about these apps. So first of all, the first what we are going to study is basically the Umang app. Okay, so Umang, that is the full form, that is the Unified Mobile Application for the New Age Governance. That is the full form of the Umang app. Now, it is basically the government of India's all-in-one, that is the unified, secure, and multi-channel platform, right? That is also multilingual, right? Which is an app which is powered by the robust backend platform, right? So, what is the purpose of this Umang app? It will provide you the access to the high-impact services, right, of the various organizations which belongs to the state as well as the central government. Now, as it is a unified app which provides you the various services related to the central government and the state government. Here, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched this Umang app in 2017. Okay. Now, recently, what happens is this is a unified platform that provides all type of services which belongs to the central government as well as the state government. Now, it has been decided that this Umang app, right? It has been decided that the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, that is also known as MITI, that is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, have decided, right, to introduce the various initiatives regarding the weather forecasting in this Umang app, right? So here, to further enhance the initiative of the Digital India program, this MIT basically brought the Indian Meteorological Department services on this Umang app. So here the IMD services would be provided under this Umang app. So here, different type of services which are hosted on, right, the website of IMD have been also onboarded on this Umang mobile application. So what type of various services that will be provided on this Umang app, right? So it will provide you the current weather information like the current temperature, the humidity, the wind speed, right, the direction, etc. It will be provided. It will also provide the 3-hour warning to the localized weather phenomena. It will also provide the city forecast, that is the past 24 hours in the also the 7-day forecast of the weather. It will be provided. It will also provide you the rainfall information, like the all India direct rainfall information, that is on the daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, that will be provided to you. It will also provide the tourist forecast, that is the past 24 hours and the next 7 days, the forecast of the weather condition, right, specifically in around 100 tourist cities in our country. It will also provide you some sort of a warning related to the cyclones, right? It will provide you the alert. Okay, so these are the different services which will be provided through the Umang services. Now, the second is the rain alarm. This is another weather forecasting app, right, where it will alert you, right, when the rain is approaching to your locality, right? If you just put the on the Google this rain alarm, right, it will be directed to this website of this rain alarm. And once you subscribe this rain alarm or once you download this app, okay, then with the GPS connectivity, right, that will basically alert you when the rain is approaching to you, right, or the rain is basically nearby to you. So these alerts are basically are basically reliable short-term forecast which is based on the near real-time data. Okay, so this app is more precise and it is more reliable than the traditional forecast, which is basically used by the Indian Meteorological Department. So it is very useful for the outdoor activity. Like for example, if you are planning for certain outdoor activities, you could check whether this rainfall is approaching to you or not. So what type of information that it will be provided to you? It will provide like alerts, like type of preparation, type of precipitation, okay, what type of rain will be there, whether it is a rainfall, snowfall, or hail. Okay, it will also notify you, with respect to the sounds, different type of sounds, it will be notifying you. It will be very easy, right? And it will be very easy to understood this rain alarm also. And the next is Damini. This Damini, which is also the app or weather forecasting app that we are talking. So this Damini app basically monitors the lightning occurrence. You might have seen that in the heavy rainfalling times, various lightning strikes occur in the different part of the country. Okay, that kills animals, the peoples, human beings also, and destroys sometime the crops also. So definitely the information related to the lightning is very important. That alerts the users related to the lightning that occurs nearby to them through the GPS notification under 220 to 40 kilometers in the range. Okay, so this Damini app basically triggers this, the warning or some sort of an alert related to the lightning strike, right? That too in advance of 3 hours, so that you could get enough time to move away from that particular location, so that you could save the loss to the life as well as your property. This app or this Damini app is basically developed by the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology as well as the Earth System Science Organization under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. It was launched in the year of 2020. It is a very useful app for the purpose of the lightning or for the purpose of forecasting the lightning strike at least 3 hours in the advance. Next, the Fakir Mohan Senapati. The Fakir Mohan Senapati was basically, a writer. He was basically the Odia writer or belongs to the Odisha. So he is basically considered, the Odia writer. He was also considered as a poet, philosopher, and a social reformer. He was born in 1843 and he died in 1980. Right. So recently, on the June 14th, okay, the Fakir Chand death anniversary have been, remembered. So here, remembering the Fakir Mohan Senapati's, death anniversary. That was 103rd death anniversary of Fakir Mohan Senapati. So why we are concerning about the Fakir Mohan Senapati? He was regarded as the father of modern Odia literature, right? He was regarded as the father of modern Odia literature, and he has dedicated his entire life for the progress of Odia literature, right? He also played a very leading role and significant role in establishing the distinct identity of Odia language and Odia literature, right? So it would not be wrong to say that the story of the Fakir Mohan, right, is definitely the story of the Renaissance in the Odia literature. So definitely, the Fakir Mohan Senapati or Fakir Mohan Chand is basically dedicated his life for the purpose of the Renaissance in the Odia literature. He is basically hails from the Odisha, specifically from from the Balasore district of Odisha. Okay. Now, what we have also referred him as the Utkala Vyasa Kavi, that is Oriya's Vyasa, right? Who was the great Kavi. And this Fakir Mohan, realized that Oriya language can be taken to the next level, right? So definitely he has basically, popularized the literature specifically in the Oriya language through various publications. So definitely he is also regarded as the father of Odia nationalism as well as the father of modern Odia literature. And his friend that was known as Gauri Shankar Ray, right? Published an Oriya magazine that is known as the Utkal Deepika. The Utkal Deepika was basically a magazine that was published by his friend that is known as Gauri Shankar Ray, right? And for the first time, right? And the Gauri Shankar Ray as well as the Utkal Senapati or the Fakir Mohan Senapati basically, did everything for the reporting specifically the failures of the British administration to prevent the great famine in the Odisha that was occurring in 1965-66 when the millions of the people basically died due to the starvation. So definitely he was also considered a great nationalist in that respect, and he played a very leading role in establishing the distinct identity in the Odia language. So definitely he was also known for introducing the novel writing, the short story and autobiography in the Odia literature. He was basically considered as the great social reformer also, Fakir Mohan Senapati. Okay. Next, you have the Chana Paul. The Chana Paul is nothing but basically a sect, right? It is nothing but a religious sect. Religious sect. Now, what is happening is that a religious leader or this sect leader, that is also known as the Zauna. Zauna is a basically person or a leading figure. Okay, he is basically the head of this religious sect, which is also known as the Chana Paul. Right. Recently, the Zauna, who is basically the head of this religious sect, have died. Right. He had died because of various medical issues. Now, the Zauna Chena, who was also considered the patriarch of this Christian cult or religious cult, which is known as the Chena Paul, has the largest family in the world. That means he is credited to have the largest family in the world. Right? He has recently passed away in the Aizawl in the Mizoram, which is the northeastern district of in northeastern state of India. So, what is Chana Paul? Chana Paul is nothing but a religious sect. It is a Christian sect which basically considered the polygamy or which basically practiced the polygamy, right? Specifically in this Christian sect. Polygamy means that person may have more than one wife, So the person can have or can marry with more than one wife. So here the funeral of the Zauna, which is basically the patriarch of the largest family in the world, right? As well as he was also considered the cult leader of the Chana Paul that we are talking about. The Chana sect, right, is basically considered a Christian sect, right, which is practiced by the Christian people, specifically in certain tribal areas, right, and where thereby they practice the polygamy also. So here the most important aspect is that the Chana, basically this northeastern state of Mizoram, basically lead this Chana Paul, or which is basically religious sect, right? The Chana Paul or this sect has almost 2,000 members, 2,000 members, and that too all are living basically in the village of the Mizoram that is known as the Waktang village, right? So they basically have their house in the Waktang village of Mizoram. Okay, now what is happening is that the Chana basically heading this Chana Paul, which is a cult, right? It was basically initially his father, the Kachungoha, basically founded this sect in June 1942. After the death of his father, definitely Mr. Chana or Mr. Zauna was basically become the by default leader of this Chana Paul or the leader of this sect, which is also known as Chana Paul. The Chana married, right, with almost, you could understand, he has 39 wives. So at the age of 36, at the age of 76, because he died at the age of 76. So you could understand at the age of 76, he has 39 wives. 39 wives. Okay. He has 33 grandchildren, okay, from these 39 wives, and he has also one great grandchild, so you could understand that the Chana, when he married with his first wife in 1959, so 1959, the Chana basically married his first wife when he was just 17 years of the age, right? And thereafter, he continued to marry with another woman, and the last wife that he married in 2004, right? Who was 25 years of the age of that girl to whom that he has married, right? And he is reported to living in a basically in a four-story house, specifically in the village. That house name is the New Generations Home. The New Generations Home. That is the name of the house where this Jauna basically used to live. This New Generations Home basically have 100 rooms. These 100 rooms are basically shared by the largest family in the world, where almost 2000 family members basically living, right, in basically in the village. So there the wives basically shares the dormitory which is near the Chana's private room. So the Chana has almost 181 members which is living under one roof. That is 39 wives, 94 children, right, 33 grandchildren, okay, and one great grandchildren. So you could understand that how big the family he has. Okay, and the most important is that the Chana base basically headed this Chana Paul, which is a cult, right, which is basically dedicated from his father. Okay, next, the dedicated freight corridor. The dedicated freight corridor is basically used specifically for the transferring or for the transshipment of the different commodities from one place to the another place. So it's a dedicated freight corridor. That means it is used for transporting the freight from one place to the another place. So here the Indian Army have successfully conducted the trial runs of various military trains, which is loaded with the vehicles and the equipments belongs to the Indian Army, right, on the dedicated freight corridor. So here, right, here the trials which basically runs from the new Rewari station in the Haryana to the new Fulera station in the Rajasthan to check, right, the feasibility of this dedicated freight corridor for the purpose of the transportation of this the military vehicles and the equipment. So here what we are referring here, the dedicated freight corridor, is basically consisting of the two segments. That is, the one is western freight corridor or western dedicated freight corridor, that is basically located on the western side of India, and second is the eastern dedicated freight corridor, that is basically located on the eastern side of India, right. The route kilometer or the length of this western dedicated freight corridor is around 1500 kilometers, right. The length of this eastern dedicated freight corridor is around 1875 route kilometers, right, which is basically is the largest dedicated freight corridor till now. So here that we are referring about the eastern dedicated freight corridor, that basically starts from the Ludhiana, from the Punjab, and it will pass through various states, for example from the Haryana, then to the Uttar Pradesh, then Bihar and the Jharkhand, and it will terminate in the West Bengal. Okay, the western dedicated freight corridor will start with the Dadri, which is a place in the Uttar Pradesh, and it will terminate it basically in the Maharashtra, right. So it will pass through you know it will pass through various states like UP, Haryana, Rajasthan and Gujarat, and it will ultimately terminate to the Jawaharlal Nehru port, which is located in the Mumbai. Okay, so here the two sections which have been dedicated to the nation by our honorable Prime Minister of the country, right, these two sections, which are first of all located on the eastern dedicated freight corridor, that is from the Bhopur to the Khurja, that is of around 350 kilometers of the length, is already constructed and dedicated to the nation on the January 29, 2020. And the another section from the Rewari to the Madar, that is around 306 kilometers on the western dedicated freight corridor, that was also dedicated to the nation on the January 7, 2027. Okay, so here you could understand the western dedicated freight corridor, that is basically starting from the Dadri, right, which is a place in the Uttar Pradesh, to the Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, which is basically a major port in Maharashtra, in Mumbai. Okay, so it will pass through the Dadri, Rewari, Fulera, Ajmer, Mebar, right, Palanpur, Mehsana. So it will pass through the Uttar Pradesh, then Haryana, then Rajasthan, then Gujarat, then ultimately to the Maharashtra. Okay, then this is basically eastern dedicated freight corridor, that is around 1839 kilometers long, which basically originate from the Ludhiana and terminate at Dunkuni in West Bengal. It will pass through various states as well as various the places along the states. Okay, next you have the Jalgaon banana. The Jalgaon banana is basically the geographically tagged or geographically indicated tags. So it is GI tag certified. The Jalgaon banana have recently been exported to the Dubai from the Talwandi village in the Jalgaon district of Maharashtra. So this Jalgaon banana, which is a geographical indicated, right, or geographically indicated tagged, certified, the Jalgaon banana, which is rich in terms of the fibers or the mineral rich, which have been exported to the Dubai. Now this Jalgaon banana got GI certification, right, with respect to the Nisarganga Krishi Vigyan Kendra, which is also located in the Jalgaon. So here the most important aspect is that around 22 tons of the GI certified banana have been basically exported to the Dubai, They have been sourced from the farmers of the Tadal Bandi village in the Maharashtra Jalgaon district, right? This cluster, specifically in the Jalgaon district, have been identified under the new agricultural export policy of the government of India. So here, the most important aspect is that the exports, specifically of the bananas, have grown in the recent years. For example, if you could see the figure, the exports of the banana, for example, in the financial year 2020, that means 2019 to 2020, that is the financial year of 2020, right? The exports basically, that was around 1.95 lakh ton, right? That was the export, right? These lakh tons of the banana have been exported in the financial year 2000, in the financial year 2019, or simply uh, 2018 to 19. This year we are referring here, 1.34 lakh ton of the banana is exported. So in the financial year 19, that is 2018-19, 1.35 lakh tons of the banana is exported. In the financial year 2020, that is from 2019 to 20, around 1.95 lakh tons of the bananas are exported. Now, recently in the financial year 21, that is 2020 to 2021, right? In that financial year, the country has so far exported around 1.91 lakh ton of the nourishing food, that is worth of around 619 crore. So this figure, that is 1.91 lakh tons, is going to increase because still you have the time specifically in this year. Okay, so around, you can understand that India is the world leading producer of the banana, which is having the share of around 25% of the world output of the banana belongs to the India. Okay, the banana is basically widely considered as a tropical crop or tropical fruit. It is also grown in the subtropical and as well as it is also grown in the coastal regions of the country. Okay, specifically the producers, the Andhra Pradesh is the largest producer of the banana in our country, which is closely followed by the Gujarat, followed by Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh. Right, all these states, right, including Andhra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh, contribute around 70% of the country's banana production in our country. So here that we are talking about this Jalgaon banana, which is rich in terms of fiber, right, which have also been geographically indicated tag or GI tag have been registered against this Jalgaon banana, which is rich in terms of fiber, rich in terms of minerals. Okay. Next, MSME, that is micro, small, and medium enterprises. Right. So Government of India have simplified the registration process for the micro, small, and medium enterprises so that they could easily can register themselves with the Government of India. Now the government says that now only PAN card and Aadhaar card will be required for the registration of MSMEs instead of the tedious process. It is definitely right. The Government of India is trying to boost the economic activities of the MSMEs, trying to cut down the red tape, try to cut down all sort of the regulatory requirement with respect to the MSMEs, right? And as the Prime Minister Narendra Modi also announced the special package, that is of 20 lakh crore rupees under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan for the purpose of upgrading and boosting this economic activities of MSMEs. Okay, why the MSMEs are very very important? Here the MSMEs are the backbone of the rural economy. That is definitely because the rural people are specifically dependent on the MSMEs for their employment, for their economic revenue, right? So here the revised classification for the purpose of MSME was basically effective, right, with the effect from the 1st July 2020. So here the composite criteria which have been ultimately been renewed with respect to the dividing of this micro, small, and the medium enterprises, that is based on the investment and the annual turnover. The investment, what we are talking in terms of the investment in the plant, the investment in the machinery, the investment in the equipment, as well as the annual turnover. So now let us understand what is the revised criteria with respect to the classification of the micro enterprises, the small enterprises, and the medium enterprises. So one by one we will look into, right, the criteria based on which they have been selected. Okay, so first of all, let us understand about the micro enterprises. So here the investment limit, right, have been increased from 1 crore, right, and the turnover that has been also been increased to the 5 crore. So there you could classify that if any enterprises, if the investment is basically 1 crore, right, and the turnover is around 5 crore, right, you can call it them as a small enterprises, right. Previously this was basically the previous limit. Now the investment of the turnover limit have now been increased from 1 crore to the 5 crore, right, as well as the turnover limit have been increased from 5 crore to the 50 crore rupees. So that means if any enterprises which is classified as a micro enterprises, in which the investment have been made to at least 5 crore Indian rupees, as well as the enterprises will have the 50 crores of the turnover, right, in the specific financial year. So now let us understand what is the investment here means. The investment is basically an asset or the item that is basically is purchased with the hope that it will generate the income, or it will appreciate the value, right, at some point of the time in the future. So you can say that the investment can referring to any mechanism that is used for the generation of the future income, including the bonds, the investment in terms of the stocks, the real estates, the property, right, anything that you can consider. The turnover that we are talking is basically the total sales made by the business, specifically that is with respect to the micro, small and medium enterprises. So that is the total sales with respect to the items they basically produce in a particular period. So it is sometimes also referred to the gross revenue or the gross income, but you must understand it is very very different from the profit, right. The profit, which is a measure of earnings, that we are not specifically concerned about the earnings. What we are concerning about the total sales, right, which is made by a particular business. So you could say that more often the turnover is basically used to understand how quickly this company basically collect the tax from the accounts, receivables, and how fast the company basically sells its inventory. Likewise, you could also classify the medium enterprises. This medium enterprises basically, having the limit with respect to the investment that have also increased to the 50 crore, right, as well as the turnover limit is basically increased to the 250 crore rupees. That means if an enterprise with, having, the limitation with respect to the investment that is 50 crore, as well as the turnover is 250 crore, that will be classified as a medium enterprises. Okay, next. Right. Fine. Next, the Sankalp Siddhi, that is Mission Vandhan. So here, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, right, that is Mr. Arjun Munda, on 15th of June 2021, have launched the Sankalp Siddhi, the Mission Vandhan. Okay, that is the scheme at, at basically the premises of the TriFed, which is head office in the New Delhi, in the 15th of June 2021. So here the Minister of Tribal Affairs launched this Tribal Livelihood Initiative, Sankalp Siddhi Mission Vandhan. So what we are referring here, the Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India, that is called TriFed. So TriFed means the Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India. What is that? It is a national level cooperative body, right, under the administrative control of the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, okay, under the Government of India, right, as it is considered as a market developer as well as a service provider. The objective of the TriFed is, the socio-economic development of the tribal people in the country, so that the tribals could, market their products, right, so that it could enhance the lives of the tribal people, right, and they could earn the income specifically through this, through this market driving strategy. So the TriFed, which is now planned to expand these operations to convergence of the various schemes from the various department and the ministries, and to launch this program in the mission mode project under the Sankalp Siddhi Mission Vandhan, specifically for the expedition implementation of the mission mode. So what is that? What is that? The mission mode that we are talking specifically with respect to, the Sankalp Siddhi Mission Vandhan. So here the implementation of this crucial mission would definitely, give the result in the transformation of the tribal ecosystem in our country. So goal of the TriFed is to connect the entire tribal community of the country with employment orientation program through this Sankalp Se Siddhi Mission Vardhan. So here the most important aspect is that 7 new tribes India outlet was basically inaugurated by the tribal minister, as well as the Vandhan website. The Vandhan website was also inaugurated. Okay. Apart from that, a software application, right, for the purpose of, for the purpose of selling of those products which are originated from the tribal people, was also being inaugurated. Okay. So these were various other things which was inaugurated by the tribal affairs minister, right. The medical values of these products that we are talking about, the forest produce, is well known to the people, right. Apart from this, the tribals have very good, craftsmanship also. So these products of the tribals, right, they do not reach to the people, right, and even if they reach to the people, they don't fetch the good prices. So in order to, fetching these good prices to the tribals, so that the tribals could also earn the income from selling of their tribal products, specifically the national and the international markets, these initiatives was basically launched under the Sankalp Se Siddhi Mission Vandhan. So definitely it will also provide, a good platform that will be available to the tribals. Definitely that can sell their products, which can increase their income and also improve their livelihood as well as their standard of living, right. So that is the most important aspect. So through this mission, the establishment of around 50,000 Vandan Vikas Kendras, 3,000 Hatwadas, 600 godowns, the 200 mini tri-food units, 100 common facility centers, 100 tri-food parks, 100 Spurti clusters, 200 tribal India, retail stores, e-commerce platform for the tri-food was basically targeted. So most important aspect is that the TriFed is basically implementing several noteworthy programs for the empowerment of tribals. So that is basically all are examples of this. So the last 2 years, the mechanisms for marketing of the minor forest produce that we are talking here, okay, that is basically, through the minimum support price have been introduced, okay, to impact the tribal ecosystem. So here the Vandhan tribal startups that we are talking about is a major component of the same scheme that we are talking about, Vandhan. Okay, and it is emerged as it is very high source of employment generation for the tribal people. So in the less than 2 years, what you could think that almost 37,000 the Vandhan Kendras was basically started, right, which is also having, around 2,240 the Vandhan Vikas Kendras clusters, okay, as well as the 300 forest dwellers, which is basically consisting with each such clusters. So that has been, dedicated to the development of this tribal economy in the country. Okay, so here you could understand that the Arjun Munda, which is basically, the tribal affairs minister of the tribal affairs, dedicated these items to the development of the tribal people. All right. Next, you have ADMM plus. What is that? The ADMM, A means here the Asian. Okay. D means defense. M means the ministers. Second M is basically the meeting. That is, you first understand that then we will go to the plus. So what is that? Asian Defense Ministers meeting. You can understand that it is basically consisting of the defense ministers belongs to the Asian. Now what is Asian? The Asian is nothing but the association of the Southeast Asian nation. That means it is basically consisting of the states or the nations belongs to the Southeast Asian, nations. So it is basically currently having the 10 members. So here the most important aspect is that the defense ministers from these 10 Southeast Asian nations are basically having the informal meeting, right, with respect to those defense preparedness. So here the 10 members that we are talking about consisting of the Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now you must consider among these 10 members, India is not a permanent member of ASEAN. But here on the sidelines of the 15th, the 15th, such Asian Defense Ministers meeting that was recently been held on the sidelines of ADMM, right? ADMM plus was also launched. So ADMM Plus was basically initially was launched in 2010, but recently it was also launched on the sidelines of the Asian Defense Ministers meeting. So what is that ADMM Plus? ADMM Plus basically consisting of these 10 permanent members of the Asian, plus it is also consisting of India, plus China, plus Australia, plus Japan, plus New Zealand, plus South Korea, plus Russia, and plus USA. So ADMM plus basically consisting of the 10 permanent members of the Asian plus India, China, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, Russia, and USA. Here, these additional countries are represented by their respective defense minister. So here, the Indian Defense Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, have addressed this Asian Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, which is a platform, right, associated with the 10 members of the Asian plus these additional countries, which are basically inclusive of this plus platform of ADMM, right. Recently, the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has termed, right, the terrorism and the radicalization as the gravest threat to the peace and security of the world. Okay, so Asian Defense Ministers Plus meeting basically consisting of the 10 Asian members. Apart from that, the 8 countries or 8 dialogue partner countries, that is consisting of the India, China, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, South Korea, Russia, and United States of America. Okay, now the 15th such meeting of the Asian Defense Ministers basically recently been hosted by the Brunei, and this chair of this year basically also vested with the Brunei. Okay, now the ADMM plus that we are talking basically is mainly strengthening on the security and the defense cooperation for the purpose of peace, stability, and the development of this region. This inaugural of the ADMM Plus that was held in the Hanoi in the Vietnam in the year of 2010. Okay, so here you could understand the ADMM, that is basically Asian Defense Ministers meeting, right? That is consisting of the Myanmar, Laos, Philippines, Cambodia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Brunei, Malaysia, and Singapore. These are basically the 10 nations. These are basically the 10 nations. You could understand that, right? These are basically all the Asian members. ADMM plus means you will have the all Asian members plus these dialogue partners. These dialogue partners are consisting of 8 additional members, that are Australia, USA, India, South Korea, Japan, China, New Zealand, and basically your, right. So these are basically Russia. So these are basically another dialogue partners with respect to the ADMM plus. Okay. Next, the sea turtle. So here you have in the world you have almost 7 sea turtle species. So the World Sea Turtle Day is basically celebrated throughout the world on the June 16th every year. Okay, definitely to conserve to basically conserve these sea turtle species, as well as to educate the people to spread the awareness about the conservation of these sea turtles around the world. Okay, now the turtles are the world oldest reptile group that is existence in the world, and even it is even older than the lizards and the snakes. Okay, now the first few years of the turtles, specifically the marine turtles life, are often referred to the lost years. Why it is referred to the lost years? Because in the initial years of the life of the sea turtles, specifically at the time of the hatchlings means the baby or the new baby which is recently been hatched, right? As soon as it came out from the egg, right, that is called hatchlings are very very small babies, right? From that hatchlings to the initial 20 years, they generally stay in the waters, specifically in the deep oceans. Okay, so they do not come to the coastal shallow waters, specifically in the initial 20 years. So it remains a mystery to the humans, and it is basically beyond the reach of the humans about these initial 20 years of the life of those sea turtles, and that is why we call them, or we call these 20 years or initial 20 years of the life of the sea turtles are the lost years, because they are not in the purview of the basically the reading of the humans. Specifically, they are beyond, because they don't come to the coastal areas, specifically the shallow coastal areas, for the purpose of forays. After 20 years, they come out to the coastal areas for the purpose of forage. Now, these 7 species of the sea turtles, which are also known as the loggerhead, green leatherback, horsekill, the olive ridley, the camp ridley, and the flatback. Right. Among these seven species of the sea turtle, the two species of the sea turtle are considered as a critically endangered. These two species are the hawksbill and the Camp's ridley. These are two species which are considered as a critically endangered species. So this is what we are talking about, the sea turtles. Next, NATO. NATO means the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. North Atlantic Treaty Organization. What is that? It is nothing but, you could say that it is basically intergovernmental treaty. Okay, so it is basically a North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, which is nothing but intergovernmental military alliance between the 30 European and the North American countries. 30 European and North American countries, right? So here it is consisting of the 28 European countries plus, okay, you have the USA and the Canada, right? So here the around 30 countries are basically a part of this North Atlantic Treaty Organization or the North Atlantic Alliance. This organization basically implements this North Atlantic Treaty, which was signed on the 4th of April 1949. Recently, the 2021 Brussels summit was held of related to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That is the 31st formal summit. Okay, that was basically consisting of the heads of the state. That means the heads of these 30 nations basically attended this 31st formal meeting of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization at the Brussels, right, where which is held in the Belgium on the 14th of June 2021. Now, in the end of this 2021 summit, which is held in the Brussels in the Belgium, which was attended by the heads of the states of 30 nations belongs to North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Basically, they have made a statement regarding, right, the inclusion of the expanded use of their all for one and one for all. That is the clause that is also known as the Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, to include the collective response with respect to the attacks in the space. So here you must understand that this North Atlantic Treaty Organization basically having this clause which is known as the all for one and one for all, right? That is the most important aspect. So here the leaders or the heads of the states belong to this North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They said that they are considering the attacks to and from and within the space, okay, and that could challenge to the NATO or North Atlantic Treaty Organization, their members, that threatens the national and the European Atlantic prosperity, right? It will also threaten the security and the stability of these 30 countries, and it will be harmful to the modern society, specifically belongs to the NATO nations, right? And such attack would invoke the Article 5 of the NATO's foundational treaty, that is North Atlantic Alliance. So here most important aspect is that Article 5 says that if any other third country attacks on any country belongs to these 30 nations of this NATO, it will be considered as the attack on the all 30 countries, and it will be retaliated by all 30 countries. So that means if you attack on any of these one country belongs to the NATO, right? Any of these one country among these 30 nations, all 30 countries will simultaneously attack on that attacking nation. So that is called basically the Article 5, which is a most important article. So here invoking of this Article 5 will also be applicable if the satellites or their rockets are basically targeted in the space also. So it is more recently this space, or that is a separate domain, or that is a fifth domain was added to this all for one and one for all, that basically invite the Article 5. So here the most important aspect is that previously the four domains which invited this Article 5, that is if anyone attacks on the any of these 30 countries on the land, on the sea, in the air, or more recently they have also added the cyberspace. So these four domains have been added. The fifth domain recently have been added with respect to the space. Okay, now Now, in December 2019, the NATO leaders basically declared the space that will be the fifth domain for the operations. So, NATO and its partners basically consisting of around 2,000 satellites, which is there in the orbit, right? And half of these are basically operated by the NATO countries. Now, it is very, very important to protect these satellites, specifically in the space, right? Here, around 80 countries currently having the satellites, as well as the private companies are moving in also to for the purpose of this sending of the satellites in the space, right? So that's all for today. Thank you very much. We will meet again tomorrow for our next current affairs. Thank you.